Okay, moving on, a little bit more grammar, colons and single dashes. So a colon and a single dash have the exact same function. The number one rule with these that we want you to remember is that they always have to follow an independent clause. So if you're thinking about using a colon or a single dash, replace it with a period, either mentally or physically, and make sure that what you have before can stand alone as an independent clause, because if not, then you can't use that colon or single dash there. Once you're sure that you have an independent clause, you can follow the colon or single dash with a number of things: a noun, a phrase, a quote, a list, or another independent clause. Any of those would technically be correct. And I do want to talk about a couple of examples here. For example, Grace is at her favorite place, Patrick Craig Academy. So I'm thinking about using that single dash. Grace is at her favorite place. That's an independent clause that can stand alone, so we're good to go. And Patrick Craig Academy is a noun, so that works there. Okay. However, I want you guys to look at this sentence right here that says, Sabrina is eating her favorite snacks, oh my goodness, including goldfish, popcorn, and chips. Now, I know there's a list here, which is tempting to use a colon. However, if we put a colon after including, then this is no longer an independent clause. You wouldn't just say, Sabrina's eating her favorite snacks, including, and then stop. That's incorrect. So actually, you would not use a colon in this situation. Instead, you would punctuate this with a comma before including to create a large non-essential at the end of your sentence. So you do that anytime you have a word such as including, such as, or for example.
The next mistake we see, failing to recognize non-essentials. Non-essentials are all over the ACT. They are so common, so it's so important to know when to see one and what to do when you do recognize one within a sentence. Just as a reminder, a non-essential can be a word, phrase, or clause that is not crucial to the meaning of the sentence, aka you can take it out and you still have a sentence that can stand by itself and make sense. This example, a tall man, Yao Ming played in the NBA. We can take out a tall man, still have Yao Ming played in the NBA. It makes sense, just without maybe one extra detail. Non-essential words, phrases, or clauses can be separated from the rest of the sentence by commas, dashes, or parentheses. And these can also be done in at different parts of the sentence. If the non-essential is the first thing that comes in the sentence, as it was in our example question with Yao Ming, then we're going to do a comma before the rest of the sentence. So same thing, gasping for air, comma, John stopped running. If it comes at the end of the sentence, then same thing, we'll have the sentence, comma, then the non-essential, little Johnny threw a fit, comma, breaking a vase. However, if it comes in the middle of the sentence, then we're going to be going back to where we said we can use commas, dashes, or parentheses because any of those work. Josh got his Jeep, comma, which is black, comma, last Saturday. We could also do dashes around that non-essential or parentheses. Any of those is correct. They're all doing the same thing. You're not going to have to pick between any of those. Just remember that they are going to have options where you'll have like a commas in the sentence and then underlined right here, and you'll have the option to put like a comma or a dash. They always have to match whatever you're punctuating that non-essential in the middle of the sentence with. It has to match on either side of it. You can't have a comma and a dash, a parenthesis and a comma, things like that. Just make sure that they match on the outside and you're good for that.
So another tricky thing with non-essentials has to do with names. So for example, the scientist Lyndon Johnson accepted the Nobel Prize. How to tell if a name is non-essential or not, all you have to do is take it out of the sentence, either cross it out or take it out in your brain, read the sentence without it, and if you still know exactly who the sentence is talking about, then the name is non-essential. However, if you have no idea, then the name is essential and should be punctuated differently. So in this sentence, if we take out Lyndon Johnson, we have the scientist accepted the Nobel Prize. Due to that definitive article, we know exactly who the sentence is talking about. It's talking about that specific scientist that's accepting the prize. Therefore, in this case, Lyndon Johnson will be non-essential, and we punctuate it with those commas or dashes or parentheses. However, if we just said something like that, if we just said something like, scientist Lyndon Johnson accepts the Nobel Prize, or molecular biologist Bonnie Bassler leans over a collection of petri dishes, if we take out that name there, we have molecular biologist leans over a collection of dishes. We don't know who that sentence is talking about. There's no specification. There's no clues to help us out there. So in that case, the name would be essential, and there should be no commas, dashes, and parentheses around it. Another example, his wife Vera went to the store. If we take out that name, we just have his wife went to the store. We're going to go ahead and assume he only has one wife. So in this case, the name would be non-essential because we know exactly who the sentence is talking about without it. Therefore, there should be commas, dashes, or parentheses around it. And just one more thing about non-essentials, reflexive pronouns are an exception to the non-essential rule. So words like itself, himself, herself, themselves are always going to be essential, even though technically, yes, you could take those out, the sentence would still make perfect sense. They're just an exception, they're going to be essential. They should not be punctuated by commas, dashes, or colons. Or sorry, not colons, parentheses.
The next big mistake we see are modifier errors. So just as a reminder, modifiers are words, phrases, or clauses that add extra descriptive information to the sentence. And the biggest key thing about modifiers is that they have to be placed next to the thing that they are describing, whether that's a noun, a verb, whatever. So we see this sentence, with tears running down her cheeks, the sadness Susie felt was obvious. So if I just said that like right now, that might make sense, you know what I'm talking about, but in reality, we have our modifier, and it's modifying Susie, and it's not next to Susie. Right now, it's saying that the sadness has tears running down her cheeks, and that's just not what we're trying to say. So we need to rearrange this so that it says, with tears running down her cheeks, Susie was obviously sad, so there's no confusion about what's being modified and what we're talking about.
Okay, next up is not recognizing singular subjects. This has to do with our BOT rule. So as a refresher, singular subjects need singular verbs and plural subjects need plural verbs. An important rule with subject-verb agreement is that the following words are always singular: everyone, anyone, someone, no one, nothing, everybody, anything. So anything that ends in body, one, or thing is going to be singular. This is important to remember because it sounds like you're talking about more than one person, and you technically are. However, grammatically, you're going to always match those with a singular verb. Conversely, few, several, both, and many require plural verbs, so it's just important to remember that those 4 words are always going to be plural.
Next, we have not removing redundant or irrelevant words. So this one, on the ACT, they're always looking for the most concise answer, yes, but also the most concise that is also grammatically correct. So even though, as a general rule for me, you kind of think shorter is better, as in like, that's what they're looking for, it's the shortest that's also the most correct is the best answer. So we have some examples. Allison took me to a party that was a very fun time. We could get the same message across by just saying, Allison took me to a very fun party. That makes it the clearest answer and also the shortest, most concise answer. Our next example, these disease-spreading bacteria rely on quorum sensing to spread disease. Well, if we look at that end, to spread disease, we already know that they're doing that, so we don't need to repeat ourselves at the beginning of the sentence too, so that's why these bacteria rely on the sensing is our clearest, most concise, least redundant answer, and is correct. That's kind of what we're saying.
Yes. Okay, so now we're going to go over quite a few commonly confused words. These are just great things to memorize and know if you don't know the difference between them. And we're going to start off with the different types of its. So its, no apostrophe, is actually a possessive pronoun. So for example, the firm sold its stock. It's implying ownership of something else. You should only use it when you have possession. It apostrophe s is a contraction that means it is. So for example, it's hot outside. You could also say it is hot outside. If you're ever wondering which one you need to use or you're having trouble with it, go ahead and just replace the type of its that you have with it is, and if that works in the sentence, then use it apostrophe s, but if it doesn't, you know you need its, no apostrophe. And just to note, its apostrophe and its apostrophe s do not exist. The ACT loves to put these as answer choices in apostrophe questions to confuse you. Just know they don't exist. If you see them, go ahead and eliminate those answer choices right away. Next up, we have affect versus effect. I know they're not said like that, but just to differentiate, I'm going to pronounce them like that. So affect is a verb, effect is a noun. We have a helpful acronym for this that's not pictured here. It's called RAVEN. So RAVEN, the A is next to the V, so affect is a verb, E is next to the N, so effect is a noun, if that helps. For example, I don't want to affect his ability to perform, and the effect of the performance was groundbreaking.